Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I got my nice new blue shirt on.
Well, that's nice.
I'm here with
Jimmy.
Steph, the miserable liberal. Hi, Steph.
Hi, I'm kind of miserable.
Kind of.
Kind of.
So I want to, Wikileaks. So you know that Wikileaks exposed the DNC for the rigging of the 2016 primary. And so we've been talking about that nonstop ever since. Oh, no one's talked about it. They've been talking about Russia as if it controls our country or something ever since. And so instead of the DNC actually reforming itself, which is what needs to happen, it, again, does more stuff to distract people. It's suing Wikileaks. The
That's
DNC,
ridiculous.
The DNC is suing a newspaper organization or a news organization for literally reporting the truth. So I just want to walk you. So now WikiLeaks is countersuing them. And so I just want to walk you through this because it's clear that most people don't understand what's going on in this case. So this will be real quick. I went over to the Committee to Protect Journalists, right? They have a website. And they put out an article, and it's called, "By Suing WikiLeaks, the DNC Could Endanger Principles of Press Freedom." And it's written by Avi Asher Shapiro, U.S. correspondent for the Committee to Protect Journalists. And so they tell us a quick story about something that happened in 1993 in Pennsylvania that has to do exactly with the court precedent for this WikiLeaks lawsuit, okay? So in 1993, WILK, the Wilk, radio host, so the radio host on the Wilk, Frederick Vopper, that's an important name, Vopper, he broadcast a conversation that was intercepted by an illegal wiretap. So somebody illegally wiretapped these two people. They took the recording of that illegal wiretap, sent it to the radio station, and the radio station then aired it. And it was a conversation in which two teacher union officials discussed violent negotiating tactics. Now, that recording was made illegally, but it was still allowed as evidence. But it was still okay for the radio station to air it because they didn't get it illegally. So you got that? So the officials, those two officials, the two union officials that were outed by the recording, they sued Vopper, the DJ, the host, arguing that he should be liable for the illegal wiretap that captured their comments. But the Supreme Court disagreed. As Justice John Paul Stevens wrote in the Bartnicki v. Vopper decision, quote, "A stranger's illegal conduct does not suffice to remove the First Amendment shield from speech about a matter of public concern." So just because somebody got this information illegally doesn't mean that a news organization can't now reveal this information because it's in the public interest.
Wow, that's big.
Or it's a matter of public concern. That's the Supreme Court saying that. And that was all the way back in 1993. So this sets a precedent, but it's also a precedent that was also set by the Pentagon Papers. So now jumping ahead, in April, the Democratic National Committee, the governing body of the WikiLeaks Democratic Party, announced that it was suing WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, along with a number of other defendants, including the Trump campaign and Russian operatives, for their alleged involvement in the theft and dissemination of DNC computer files during the 2016 election. On its surface, the DNC's argument seems to fly in the face of the Supreme Court's precedent in Bartnicki v. Vopper, the case I just told you about. That publishers, people who publish, are not responsible for the illegal acts of their sources. Just like if you saw The Post, the movie The Post, where, who's the actress?
Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep plays the publisher of The Post. And so it's her they're going to throw in jail, or that's what they were fearing. And so she went ahead and published, and the movie makes the point that it was courageous of her to do it because she was then putting herself on the line. That's what the movie says. And so publishers are not responsible. Even though those papers might have been gotten illegally, it was okay to publish because you're a publisher, not a person who stole the information. So you didn't commit the illegal act. Plus, the information is of public concern. So in that Supreme Court case, publishers are not responsible for the illegal acts of their sources.
So she was playing the role of Kay Graham, the publisher.
Yes.
Okay.
Meryl Streep was playing yes. It also goes against press freedom, the lawsuit from the DNC. It goes against press freedom precedents going back to the Pentagon Papers, which I just talked about, and contains arguments that could make it more difficult for reporters to do their jobs or that foreign governments could use against U.S. journalists working abroad. First Amendment experts told the Center for Protecting Journalists. I'm unhappy. This is a great quote. I'm unhappy that there's even an allegation that you could be held liable for publishing leaked information that you didn't have anything to do with obtaining, said George Freeman, a former lawyer for the frickin' New York Times, and the executive director of the independent advisory group Media Law Resource Center. James Goodale, he's a First Amendment lawyer who personally defended the New York Times in the 1971 Pentagon's Papers case. He said that the suit appeared to be the first time WikiLeaks has been sued for a journalistic function. So that guy's saying WikiLeaks is actually doing a journalistic function, a normal journalistic function, and they're being sued for it. Goodall, a senior advisor to CPJ and former board chair, added that the DNC had, quote, paid zero attention to the First Amendment ramifications of their suit. David Brallo, an attorney with The Intercept, added, quote, it's hard to see many of WikiLeaks' activities as being different than other news organizations' actions when it receives important information, talks to sources, and decides what to publish. The First Amendment protects all speakers, not simply a special class of speaker. So what this guy is saying, this attorney for The Intercept, he's saying that WikiLeaks activities are exactly the same. They appear to be exactly the same as the activities of any other news organization in the similar situations. That's what he's saying. And that if you don't give this First Amendment protection to WikiLeaks, then that's dangerous because you're just giving it to a special class of speaker. When it's not, it protects all speakers, and WikiLeaks and Julian Assange fall under all speakers. So it goes on. The DNC lawsuit claims that Assange harbored animosity towards Clinton. I see a lot of people in a lot of comments of a lot of videos from my show and other shows. I do read comments all the time. I see them saying things that reveal they have no idea what they're talking about. I remember Cenk Uygur famously went on a tirade saying that every editor of every major newspaper in a news organization in the country should be fired because they're not informing the people about the Iraq War. And that most people, even after the Iraq War, a year or two after the Iraq War started, thought that Saddam had WMDs. And he was saying that's a failure of the news or agencies in America. That's a failure that people, and I agree with them, and I also think this is a failure that people have no idea what's actually the law or what's happening in the Julian Assange case. They have no idea. They just hear these wild, sweeping smears and ad hominem attacks against Julian Assange, but they'll never say, or they'll say stupid stuff like this. The DNC lawsuit claims that Assange harbored animosity towards Clinton, was in touch with the Trump campaign, and timed the release of the documents to harm the Clinton campaign. So they're saying that Julian Assange harbored animosity towards Hillary Clinton and then was in touch with the Trump campaign and timed the release of his documents to harm the Clinton campaign. And what you're supposed to say back to that is, so the effing what? So that's like saying Rachel Maddow harbors animosity towards the Trump campaign, which she does. She's in touch with the Clinton campaign, which they are. And they timed releases of documents to hurt the Trump campaign, which they, remember she had Trump's tax releases. Remember that? I got him. So every one of those things could apply to almost any journalist. So what they're doing is they're criminalizing journalists having a point of view. That's what the DNC lawsuit is trying to do, and that's what the argument and so you hear this repeated back. When I say hear it, I see it in comments under videos that I do, videos that other people, lefty shows do on YouTube. I see the people, they have they repeat this stuff. They're like, oh yeah, but Assange, he was working with the Trump campaign and they timed it. Doesn't matter. Well, but as McCraw said, a publisher having a point of view doesn't mean they aren't engaged in journalistic activity. I have a point of view. So that means I don't get to do journalism? So you only get allowed to do journalism if you don't have a point of view on the stuff you're reporting on? Everybody has a point of view on it, what they're reporting on. And coordinating publication time doesn't necessarily establish an agent-principal relationship between the hackers who broke the law and the publishers. The notion that journalistic activities such as cultivating sources and receiving illegally obtained documents could be construed as part of a criminal conspiracy is, according to Goodale, the greatest threat to press freedom today. So what he's saying here is that what Julian Assange was doing is normal journalistic activity, and now trying to criminalize that is the greatest threat to press freedom today. What's the greatest threat to press freedom today? Is it Trump taking away Jim Acosta's microphone? Is it Trump telling a reporter that that's a stupid question? Is it Trump saying that someone is doing fake news? No, turns out the greatest threat to press freedom today comes directly from the Democratic National Committee. Ironic, because if you just watch the mainstream news uncritically, you would think it was Julian Assange. You would think it was the WikiLeaks. You would think it was Trump. You'd think it was Trump as the greatest threat to press freedom today. Turns out it's their enemies. It's Trump's enemies. Isn't that wild?
You know, Jimmy, I just want to add, in 2010, Julian Assange was interviewed by Stephen Moss, and he said Assange believes that journalism should be more like a science. As far as possible, facts should be verifiable. If journalists want long-term credibility for their profession, they have to go in that direction. Have more respect for their readers. So he's talking about facts.
Yes, facts. By the way, they've never had to retract anything they published because it was false. Let me just finish this. It says, this DNC lawsuit will inhibit reporters' ability to get whistleblower information because as soon as you talk to them in any aggressive fashion, you could be guilty of a crime. So again, up is down, black is white, in is out. The real fraud that happened in the 2016 election was committed by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. The biggest election fraud in the history of our nation, and we're not talking about it. We're talking about a conspiracy theory about Trump and the WikiLeaks and the Russians colluding illegally. With, again, still, we're 2 years later, zero evidence. We'd love to see evidence of it. As soon as there's evidence of it, we'll report it. So far, it's been nothing but wild conspiracy theories from everybody covering it. Everybody. But they'll never be called conspiracy theorists. You know why? Because they're lying and pushing conspiracies that are at the behest of the establishment. It's only when you cross the line and talk about something the liberal class says you shouldn't that you get branded a conspiracy theorist. But everybody, those people, Luke Harding, the people at The Guardian, the people at Politico who published 2 completely bogus CIA stories last week and got roundly criticized for it, they'll never be called conspiracy theorists because they lie on the behalf of the establishment. And here's the DNC. They'll never be called enemies of the press because they're the establishment. Jesse Eisinger, a reporter and editor with ProPublica, described leaked documents as the lifeblood of all journalists. Leaked documents are the lifeblood of all journalists. And said that without them, reporters would be severely crippled in our ability to do accountability journalism of any kind. So if the DNC gets its way, it's going to cripple journalism. Not Trump taking Acosta's microphone away or calling you a name on Twitter, but this. And it isn't amazing how ubiquitously the press is stupid about this. They don't know anything about it. I don't know anything. I don't know. Not a frickin' peep about it. Eisinger is part of a joint ProPublica and WNYC team, which is soliciting tips and crowdsourcing as part of its investigation into Trump's business empire. So now if somebody gives them a tip that they got illegally, are they going to go to jail? If somebody illegally obtains Trump's tax returns and they print it, should they go to jail? Because that's what Rachel Maddow thought she was doing. She thought she was revealing tax returns that are private, that were gotten illegally. Of course not. I think that this civil suit goes well beyond what the First Amendment permits, said Barry Pollock, the former president of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, who represents Assange in criminal matters. We have seen the Department of Justice under both parties a willingness to at least bump right up against the line of pursuing journalists criminally, and that's dangerous. So they're saying that Department of Justice under Obama and Trump want to bump up against making journalism criminal, and that's dangerous. And so right now, they have a GoFundMe, help WikiLeaks fight the DNC. I went and donated. They're up to $13,000. They're trying to raise $150,000 so they can fight this lawsuit against the DNC. And so this is what they released. WikiLeaks releases on their GoFundMe page. In April 2018, the DNC filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against WikiLeaks simply for publishing its emails. Now listen to this. This lawsuit is the biggest attack on freedom of speech and constitutional rights in decades. But you'd never know that by watching the press. I mean, the establishment press. The DNC, this is the most mind-blowing thing. The DNC does not allege. It does not allege that WikiLeaks participated in hacking of any kind. No. It is suing WikiLeaks for providing accurate, newsworthy information to the public. That's what they're suing for. That's what they're alleging WikiLeaks to have done. What are you doing running around spreading the truth? That's what they're saying WikiLeaks did. The emails published by WikiLeaks reveal that the Clinton campaign worked with the DNC to rig the primary election and to engage in an elaborate money laundering schemes. Yes, they did. Remember how they said that they were raising all the money for, when George Clooney shows up at a $300,000 a plate dinner, and he defends it by saying most of that money's going to down ballot senators and congressmen so they can, that wasn't happening. That was a lie. All that money was going to the Clinton campaign. Astonishingly, the DNC claims that the emails of its political operatives are trade secrets. As if the DNC's rigging efforts were the equivalent to the secret formula for Coca-Cola. So their trade secrets were ways on how to cheat in the primary. That's their trade secrets on ways to cheat. With this suit, the DNC has become a press freedom predator, attempting to abuse trade secret law to suppress public understanding. Should rewind that and listen to it a couple more times because that's solid. The DNC has become a press freedom predator. Not Trump. Not him because he's messing with Jim Acosta, the grandstander that he is. No. Senior Democrats from Donna Brazil to Senator Elizabeth Warren agree that the primary was rigged by the DNC. We know that. We have video of them admitting it. The top 5 officers at the DNC, including its president, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, all had to resign over the issue. The DNC has the balls to sue the people who revealed that. That's what's happening right now. And Rachel Maddow, is she screaming about it? No. Is Chris Hayes talking about the threat to press freedom? No. Is fake tough guy Lawrence O'Donnell up giving you a tough chin and a pursed lip over this? Because no. I guarantee you he's cheering on the prosecution of Julian Assange. How about your other MSNBC wannabe lefty YouTube shows? What? How are they? Huh? So the DNC might argue that it can sue the Trump campaign or even the alleged leakers. What it cannot be permitted to do is sue the publisher who revealed its improper conduct. James Goodall, the First Amendment lawyer who defended the New York Times, so this is that guy we showed you before, he said the DNC paid zero attention to the First Amendment ramifications of their suit. The Committee to Protect Journalists warned by suing WikiLeaks, DNC could endanger principles of press freedom. The Democratic National Committee has billionaire backers to be able to fight the lawsuit in court for years. WikiLeaks, in contrast, is an award-winning small publisher entirely funded by its readers. This is a David and Goliath struggle, but as history shows, you should never bet against WikiLeaks. Why? Because in the 12 years since it was founded, it has never lost a court case, and it has never retracted a publication. So I think this is a really important story, and the fact that people who consider themselves on the left have gone along with the propaganda and smear. You can have disagreements with how with anybody. You could have disagreements with anybody about how anything they do. What you can't do is say that person's not a journalist, smear them as a traitor, and then advocate for their imprisonment with actually no evidence or idea of what you're talking about. So it's really disheartening to see not only the establishment they always talk about you always like to hear the establishment say, oh, those people, those right-wingers, those blue-collar workers who voted for Republicans, why do they keep voting against their own interests? First of all, because there's nobody in their interests. But second of all, what about journalists? This is in your interest to stand up for Julian Assange, and you're not. So those same elitists who wag their fingers at blue-collar people who vote Republican now get to have the finger wagged right back at them because you are now acting against your own interests. So if you're not publicly supporting Julian Assange, you're a tool. If you're a journalist, you're a dupe. You're what they call a useful idiot. You're all those things. Isn't it interesting the same people who consider themselves lefty journalists who don't support Assange also support Israel? Isn't that interesting? A lot of them support Israel over the Palestinians. Isn't that it's kind of, well, it's not weird. It's actually logical. They're fake progressives. So if you have an ounce of integrity and you're a journalist, you would be screaming at the top of your lungs about this. You'd be highlighting it at least. We've highlighted it every chance we get. If you care about freedom of press, quit. Get your head out of CNN's ass, which just showed you how much they care about journalism and their dedication to the truth when they fired a guy for telling the truth about Israel. Bunch of ass-kissing sycophants. Goddamn stupid establishment news bubble that YouTubers want to be in. That is so mind-blowing. Ugh. Who wants to be inside that club? Who wants to be inside an MSNBC club? A club that you go, I won't cover Bernie. Okay, I won't do it. I won't cover. Okay, I won't. Whatever you say. Whatever you don't want me to say on MSNBC, I won't say because you're giving me money. And anybody who shows up on MSNBC more than once means they're not afraid of them. They're happy to have them on. Come help us make more money. So this is this is important that everybody gets the facts right on this. And it's also disheartening to see how many people who consider themselves progressives or even liberal and totally get this story wrong. Totally get this story wrong. Anything, Steph, to add to this? No?
Jimmy, I constantly think and reflect upon how everybody is outraged about Khashoggi.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
And they act like there is no parallel universe to this.
Right. There isn't something happening right now that's even more, just as important, if not more. I don't remember Khashoggi exposing as war crimes like he did, like Assange did.
Right. And I was, I looked up, I was curious about Daniel Ellsberg, and in a 2010 article, the Daily Beast has him quoted, "Do you think Assange is in danger?" And Daniel Ellsberg's response was, "I happen to have been a target of a White House hit squad myself." You can just sit with that.
Just sit there.
A
White House hit squad.
Right.
And there's lots of people who will say, oh, it's great. You want to make up some big conspiracy. No, these are things that happen.
And he goes on to say on May 3rd, 1972, a dozen CIA assets from the Bay of Pigs, Cuban emigres, were brought up from Miami with orders to incapacitate me totally. I said to the prosecutor, "What does that mean? Kill me?" He said, "It means to incapacitate you totally, but you have to understand these guys never use the word kill."
Yeah. So think about that. There's Daniel Ellsberg, a whistleblower, revealing secrets about our war crimes, the government's war crimes. And what does the government do? They get a hit squad to come kill him, to come kill the whistleblower. Isn't that interesting?
It's terrifying.
But that's that. I bet that never ever happened since. Because if you suggest that CIA does that, you'll be called every name in the book and be discredited. If you say the CIA does that, they have hit squads and they'll kill journalists.
And we've said
whistleblowers.
Right. And we've said this before. You look at the Post and you're like, oh my God, look at this, what they did. This was so powerful.
The Post, the movie,
yeah.
The Post.
You think that you think it's amazing.
And everybody,
but right now, people don't really, they're not like
they can't make the connection between then and now. Not at all. Even Tom Hanks sitting there on a panel. No, it's different what Assange is doing. It's not different at all. It's not different at all what Julian Assange is doing. Tom Hanks, you're 100% wrong about that, you coward. And I know people in that movie, The Post. I saw them all sit on a panel. I'll pretend like this is somehow different than what's happening to Julian Assange. And, that's why we have a shitty oligarchy.
Right. And you have somebody like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who only she has to resign.
Right.
And she's still thriving politically.
Oh, yeah, she's still in Congress. She gets caught committing election fraud. Nobody gives a shit. She's not called names. She's not called a conspiracy theorist, even though she was running a conspiracy to cheat everybody. She was literally doing that. She was a conspiracy person. A conspiracist. But no one will ever call her that. She's still in Congress. Anyway, okay, there you go. So I hope you're a little bit more informed, and I hope you go support Julian Assange. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is February 1st in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a list of all our live shows, and please become a premium member if you can. Become a patron. It's the way we support this show because they're coming at us, and we give you bonus We give you hours of bonus material every week. Check it out. Become a patron. And if you can, make sure you're still subscribed. They unsubscribe people every day. I know it sounds crazy. It only takes a second. Please make sure and click that bell when you subscribe so they'll send you a notice when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.